on Social Security?
Yes. Some time ago I sent you an email suggesting that if you looked ahead 20, 25, 30 years, I don't know if you got the email or read it personally or not, but the idea was that Congressman Duffy has an opportunity to become a national figure in politics, depending upon how brave he is.
Are you talking about Social Security? And what do you
Well, Social Security was the main topic, and that is to take the cap off at the top of income, and everybody pays into Social Security.
Yeah.
And the largest consumer group that is lacking spending power is the retired people in this country. If they got a sizable increase, we could put all the people back to work for the same year.
It's a little different philosophy. First of all, there's been that proposal taking the cap off. In some of the reforms that we've talked about, it says, listen, even on the Medicare and Social Security front, and this would be for the next generation. So I wouldn't use George Soros as an example. I'll use, who's the founder of Facebook?
Zuckerberg.
Oh.
Zuckerberg. Use Zuckerberg. He's a young guy. When he gets the age of retirement, the guy's made a lot of money. In the current system, he'll collect Social Security and he'll get Medicare. You can look at some of the wealthier Americans. Go, listen, we can scale back some of their benefits. Maybe even take some of those away because they're going to be fine. And that, if you analyze it through that prism of not having them pay more but get less, you're able to get the same end goal, which is bringing solvency to Social Security.
But most of the people that are making money over $100,000 make a lot more than $100,000, and they pay into no Social Security. If everybody in the country was treated equally, and if Social Security people were making more income, then I would say that everybody on all income should pay Social Security, and you would have more money than you would know what to do with.
Right, and there's some people who would kind of dovetail your argument and say, listen, I know we have a $17 trillion debt. I know that. And I know that we borrow $1 trillion a year. The last couple of years has been about $700 billion, but it's going to go back to $1 trillion in 2016. I know that. We don't have to reform the way that we spend. We don't have to reform our programs. All we have to do is get more of the money that's out there. We just have to tax you more. The answer isn't just saying, listen, tax, 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 tax. I think it is make sure you have programs that are sustainable. And saying we're going to raise taxes on people, I don't think is the end answer. Because, listen, I think you know how to spend
What
your money.
benefit is it not to have somebody making $1 million not to pay Social Security on $900,000?
Because the thought process is this is a benefit that you pay for, right? And so is the guy that makes $1 million going to
The
be
government needs money, and the only way you get it is through taxes, tariffs, fees, licenses.
Right. And so the way that I think we should bring in more revenue is not by raising taxes. I think we bring
I'm not raising taxes. I'm saying why should you not pay taxes? That's not raising taxes. That's taxing people that don't pay tax.
What I think
Money comes out of your pocket, it's a tax.
Yeah, but that billionaire doesn't get any more. He since his cap, he doesn't make any. His benefit is not any more than because it's limited. It's not as if he's going to get a bigger benefit because he made $1 million.
When Mr. McIntyre paid himself $1 billion bonus in United Healthcare about, Sean, what, 10 years ago?
I don't know.
He paid no Social Security tax.
But he's also not going to get any Social Security benefit out of that money either.
Well, I understand, but the majority of the people in this country are not over $100,000 income earners.
So
And they're the beneficiary. But you're having 10 million new children born in this country every year. We add to the economy the size of Wisconsin, Minnesota, and North Dakota in a population increase, and those people that are born are not contributors to the economy for the first 20 or 30 years of their life. So how do you account for the system paying for the new people? Like your family, I got 8 children.
You got me.
My wife and I. It wasn't a soul.
You can be the winner too. I don't want to challenge you at.
And I didn't evaluate her either.
Let me ask you, so on Medicare, you have, everyone pays, goes all the way up. Now it's a lower rate, but everyone's paying on all their income. And with Medicare,
There's a surcharge.
it's still going broke, and we're looking at 12 years. It's running out of money, okay? So we say, well then, Medicare is more of a problem than Social Security, because Medicare, the costs are growing far, healthcare costs that are ballooning, and people live longer, and been a little bit sicker, and that's been one of the problems. So you say raise the taxes?
Like Reagan did 30 years ago.
So here's the question.
Did you like what Reagan did?
So here's my question for you though. If you have Social Security, you're admitting we got to deal with Social Security, and it's funny, that's about 32 years away. You're right. It's easier to deal with it this far out, but we're going to have issues in Social Security. The more pressing issue is Medicare. Now you've had people who paid into Medicare for their lifetime, and they expect a certain benefit when they get out, when they retire, right? And it's going broke in 12 years. Now, is your government working on a strategy and a plan to fix Medicare right now? No.
I offered you one, you said no.
You said Social Security. I'm talking Medicare. Now I'm talking health care.
That's part of Social
let me ask
Security.
you.
No, that's
Let me ask you a question. So if we can't figure out, the government hasn't figured out how to fix the Medicare problem for our seniors who have paid for it, who anticipate having a benefit when they retire. They haven't fixed that yet. And all the while they said, I know we haven't fixed this for our seniors, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to make an entitlement promise to the rest of America, everyone else in Obamacare. I think what makes sense is go, you know what? We first want to make sure we take care of our seniors who have paid for this for their whole lifetime. Let's shore up on Medicare. Make sure it's sound, it's stable, it's secure, and everyone's going to get that. Once we figure that out, you want to talk about health care for everybody? Fine. But when you start making promises to people that your government can't keep, and they are doing that, there's a day of reckoning. And I'm fearful of what happens when that day of reckoning comes, because when people rely on promises, they set the retirements up around the promise, and if the government fails on them, it's chaos. And it's really painful. And so back to the revenue side, I think if we'll have plenty of, you start growing at 3.5%, 4%, we have no problems. But you grow revenue by growing your economy. I don't think you grow your economy by growing your tax rates, by taxing people more. And this is a different philosophy. Some people go, tax, tax, tax. There's more money to get. You just got to give it to us.
The largest
And others who say, you know what, let's grow it.
The largest group of consumers that spend is the senior citizens. And this year we got a what, 1.2% cost of living increase.
How much do you make on your money that you save in the bank account? How much money do you make on that?
They don't pay you. It costs money to bank.
So how much do the guys making on Wall Street?
Pardon me?
How much do guys make on Wall Street? The markets have you print money.
A lot.
You see the markets. No one says if you're investing. Everyone says, listen, don't go against the Fed. The Fed's print money. The markets are going to have sugar. But what's the consequence? Men and women who saved their whole lives, who anticipate a certain return on the little nest egg, they've got nothing. And I go, where's the equity in that? You talk about even a division of wealthy, the haves and the have-nots. This is played right into it. I don't know where I'm going with that. But anyone else? We have a... Yeah.
I just talking about Medicare and Social Security. Hasn't the government borrowed lots of money from our Social Security money? Well, why can't they print the money and put it in the Social Security? It would pay back, and it would go for many more years than they.
So that's a good point. So traditionally, what we've done is there's more money that's come in Social Security, and the people you formerly elected, people when I was riding my trike down the street were doing this, so they spent it, right? So there's a whole bunch of IOUs in there. When I'm talking about the Social Security, I think it's 32 years, Medicare is 12. We have to start paying that back now. So it's not a net, it's not net revenue to the budget. We're actually having to pay those IOUs back, and it runs out. Medicare 12, Social Security 32, and then we go, what do you do? And you print on the Fed side, printing the money the way that we have. I think we're going to see pent up inflation issues. Let's make one other issue. I know, looking at the banking side of stuff, you want to make sure economies grow and we have prosperity in our communities. You saw the financial crisis, right? Small town community banks, you can find some examples where they did some bad things. Most of them are pretty good bankers. Credit unions, same thing. It's big guys on Wall Street that did a lot of this stuff. And now all the regulations that have come out, they said we're just going to focus them on the big guys, the big banks. If you ask any of your bankers, they're getting crushed with new rules and regulations, and they don't have a team, they don't have the staff, they can't hire 5 new compliance officers. They can't do it. They don't have the bandwidth to do it. But you're a big bank, you're Wells Fargo, you're Bank of America. They're great with that. They're fine. I mean, they're not great, but they have the bandwidth, they have the revenue to hire all the compliance officers and deal with big government. Your small community bank can't. When you start seeing your small community banks go out of business or starting to consolidate and take decisions out of your community and go to other communities, our community is not as well off. We're worse off. And you're starting to see that happen right now. And I know it's a sub-issue out there, but if you can't access capital, if Walt can't go, listen, I know your dad, I know the family, you know what, we're going to take a risk on you. This community's going to take a risk on you because you have a good idea that we think we'll invest in as a community. If he can't do that, that capital never flows to a small promise of new business, as a business that creates jobs in our community. He'll go, I can't do that now. I want to take the risk on you, but the regulators will kill me. Can't do it. That's a problem for growth throughout our whole economy. Job growth doesn't come from the biggest businesses, it comes from the smallest.
You won't have a Concord
businesses.
tool.
You don't have a Concord tool, that's right. So those are real concerns I think that we have to be aware of. It's not just something that affects somebody else, it affects all of us here. By the way, big banks on Wall Street, I'd love to have you all look at where the CEOs give their money and what party they give their money. Not to our side. Yeah.
Isn't it true that when Social Security was first initiated back in the 30s under Roosevelt, there were basically, I considered 2 problems. Number one, there were 4 people working for every person that was on Social Security.
That's right.
So they had a lot of money coming in.
Yep.
Then as the years went by, it dropped down to 3 people for one.
Yep.
Then it dropped down to 2, and I think that's where it's at now, maybe even 1 to 1.
I think it's 2.2, 2.1.
Okay. That's why, and back then, they said it was the system whereby money would keep coming in. More money would be in the system than was going out. That's not the case today. But another problem that I saw is that Congress all of a sudden saw this big pot of gold and started saying, hey, we need some extra money, so they started tapping the till and put it in IOU. Well, now we've got a bunch of IOUs and nothing else. If the Social Security, as I understand it, it's a Social Security trust fund, that was supposed to be used only for Social Security. How did Congress get around that?
Again,
By borrowing the money.
I was riding my trike when they did that.
They invested, the Social Security Trust Fund invested in treasury bonds. And that's how that happened. The other issue that happened is Social Security was supposed to be strictly for retirement.
Right.
But then there are widows and orphans, and they're very important.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of taking out of the general fund, we'll put them in Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
So I paid in Social Security for a long time, but I have a stepson who has lupus. He was on Social Security for a short period of time, had never paid a dime into it. But he was qualified because he was on disability, SSI. So you had more reasons to take money out, and the government kept putting, the investment of the trust fund went into treasury bills, which gave Congress the money to do what it is what they wanted to do.
But just, there is IOUs.
It's a Ponzi scheme.
Our projections are, when they cleared, it's when we paid all the money back, when Congress has paid it back. So it will be paid back. But that puts more financial pressure on the budget. Just maybe 2 other points on the budget stuff. I think with the $17 trillion debt, and you start to see when the Fed is starting to stop its quantitative easing, they're going to stop printing money, you're going to see rates rise. When we start paying real rates on our debt, It's a huge portion of our budget. And then Medicare is growing really, really quickly because we have all the baby boomers who are retiring. Healthcare costs are going up and people live longer. It's just, that's the dynamics of our culture. And we got to figure out ways to deal with this stuff. And it has to be bipartisan. Both people have to buy in to make sure it's addressed. But it's important for us to go, we have a problem, let's fix it. Listen, I know we're out of time. Thank you guys all for coming. I appreciate you sharing conversation with me and ideas. I appreciate it.